Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. This episode of the Tatiana Show has been brought to you by eToro.com. You can trade in a wide range of assets, connect with the crypto community, and automatically copy top-performing portfolios at eToro.com. Quite simply, they have the top currencies, smart tools, low fees, social trading, all in one simple app. They facilitate over $1 trillion in trading volume per year globally. eToro makes powerful trading tools easy. Get started in minutes right now at eToro.com. That's eToro.com. Hey guys, welcome to Prepperpalooza. We wanted to make an episode of the Tatiana Show where we basically imagine the zombie apocalypse. We talk about Corona. We get our conspiracy theory on. We talk about some alternative information. We get out our tinfoil hats. We have some laughs. We're going to have some comedy and then do a little bit of live music. We've got a lot of really good guests. Some are specialists. Some are just goofballs. I'm joined here today with my co-host, as always, Josh Scrilla. Hey, Josh, how are you?
Hey, Tatiana, it's good to finally be here. It's working. We're at the stage where, it was weird walking outside. We're in Potsdam, in beautiful Potsdam in Germany, just outside of Berlin. And usually it's humming with people, and it's so weird. And I guess this is all around the world, where you go outside and you see beer gardens empty and just full of cobwebs, and you think, oh, wow, and you just hear wind.
That's when you know that things are bad, when the beer gardens are empty.
Yeah, beer gardens in spring empty in Germany is just like a what the fuck.
Okay, listen, there might be children trying to get prepped, so you can cuss, but right out the gate, eh?
What the flock of ducks?
Okay, fine. No, people are going to be cursing. This is a show about the end of the times, the worst of times. We're all trying to prep. We've got some different kinds of like gear and stuff. We're going to be showing you guys different prepping equipment that we've been getting. So let's get this party started. Our first guest is Kevin McKernan. Kevin has been a guest on the Tatiana Show. Kevin is who I consider the god of marijuana, medical marijuana, not just recreational. That's a whole other title. We won't be giving that out today. But Kevin put on a thing called McKernan of Med. He does medical genomics testing. They linked that with Dash. They've been doing all sorts of cool stuff. So if you go to thetatianashow.com, you can flip through some of the episodes and you can hear Kevin talking about all sorts of stuff. But Kevin's been posting some good stuff on Facebook. Kevin, should we be afraid of the coronavirus? Is this the end of times?
No. I think it's been around for a long time. This thing, I think we're going to see this week a lot of antibody tests come out that demonstrate that a lot of people are actually already immune to this. They haven't done those tests yet. They're just getting them out. Italy started to do them.
Tomorrow in Germany, they're starting the antibody tests in Munich.
Yeah, so that I'd be very curious to see where the news goes with this, because I think it's going to come back showing like Italy preliminary showing like 70% of the patients having antibodies, which means, or 70% of the population. Very small study, but I think we're going to see the same thing with this, is that this coronavirus has recently mutated to hurt comorbid people, but it's been around for a while, and a lot of people probably have antibodies for it, and we're all getting locked inside for perhaps unintelligent reasons. I do think if you're old, and I'm not a physician at all, so don't take this as medical advice, but yeah, there's a risky population, but this is no reason to shut down the economy. The shutting down of the economy is probably going to kill more people. So it's been way overblown. I don't think we're getting the right information through whatever channels that are advising for this entire shutdown. But the virus is manageable. The chloroquine stuff that people have out there is real. That data looks very promising. So we've got now a potential treatment for it. Plus we understand how to screen for it. Plus we've got antibody tests. I think this thing is going to blow over and peak in 2 weeks, and we'll hopefully be back online. Question is whether or not the power that's been given to the state is probably not going to get relinquished as quickly as we'd like. And I think we're going to be in for a rough couple weeks trying to convince people to get the boot off everyone's neck and let the economy get back in gear.
We've seen Sweden do something totally opposite than the rest of the world. They're basically just allowing everyone to keep on going, but protecting the old and the sickly. So they're basically locking all the old and the sickly away. Well, not locking, they're not, but they're saying, please stay quarantined. And while everyone else gets this, we'll see what happens. I think this is a very important experiment in this whole thing of let's see if this herd immunity really managed to smash hospital system. The thing is, they have got a really good hospital system, whereas the United States, yeah.
Sure. We're much more centralized. We've got a lot more government intrusion. As you can see, everything that happened with the CDC, where they declared a monopoly on testing and then fumbled the test, and then when they got out of the way, there was then the FDA in the way who needed emergency use authorizations. That took some time to unravel, and now you need to get a CLIA license in order to do this. There's just layers and layers of bureaucracy that are taking infinite amounts of time when you look at this on an exponential time scale to reverse in the United States to get people up to scale. But when you look at the other countries, they turned on testing in a heartbeat. And it's kind of frustrating because all that testing technology was developed here in the States. And it's not, and we're the last country to actually put it to use. I think Korea and the United States had the same index case. The time frames were both on January 19th, right? And they got up to speed testing instantly by being able to do home testing and drive-through testing, and we're still tripping over regulations that don't allow us to do it. So hopefully, if there's any silver lining, hopefully some good comes out of this, where they get the FDA the hell out of the way of people reading their own genomes. They should never have that control to begin with. And right now, you should be able to do any type of biological test on yourself at home with home kits, but they get in the way every time. And that's a constitutional, I think, violation, that you have the ability to read whatever your own DNA is, and no one should be able to get in the way of you doing that, no regulatory agency. So hopefully the tides will turn in the medical community to really support this.
Do you think that this is Trump's fault? Do you think that there were things at his level that were incorrectly handled, or do you think that this is something that's inherent in the FDA? I mean, obviously, the marijuana industry has been blocked on every corner, trying to get out of the boot from them. So do you think that that's also the person to blame here, or the agency to blame, I guess?
I think it's hard to pin this on. If you want to pin it on Trump, then you have to believe that throne matters, right? I don't think it really does. I think his position is really a PR position, and he doesn't really have the control over this monstrous, large government. I mean, this thing has been growing for decades, if not 100 years, where we have a massive government now that is filled with unelectable people, and one person sweeping in for 4 years at a time has absolutely no effect on changing the course of that thing. They can tweet a couple things and maybe fire a couple people, but they're going to have a really hard time getting all those layers of bureaucracy out of the way. So no, I don't look to whoever's in that position to necessarily take the fall or be the blame. If you want to beat him up, go for it. But I heard people criticize him for getting rid of the pandemic team. And frankly, he didn't fire enough of them. He should have fired them all, because they're the people who got in the way. And then they turned around and asked for a bigger budget after they fumbled up all the testing. So I think both the CDC and the FDA should be reduced in scope, not be given larger stimulus money as a result of this. But we'll see what happens. They already seem to be throwing money around at the CDC and the FDA. I think the problem lies in too many people believing that the government can effectively run a regulatory committee. All those regulatory committees do is they take money from pharmaceutical industries and from other industry players. They're just a middleman, a bribery machine that's wrapped up in a regulatory veil.
Do you think that a vaccine is something that people should be clamoring for? Because aside from the fact of, actually, we shouldn't brush it aside, right? Because there's a question of mandatory vaccinations. That's crazy. But first of all, is it viable? Is a vaccine a good solution in this case?
So the last corona vaccine backfired. They've tried to make one. You can actually see the president of Regeneron actually on air with the president talking about how dangerous this could be. We can't just go and rush a vaccine out the door, because vaccines in this department in the past have shown to create harm, not benefit. So I believe in immunology. I believe some vaccines work. I do not believe in rushed vaccines where the manufacturer has a complete hall pass and all liability. That to me sounds like a dangerous way of distributing accountability, where the government can create a fear panic through this whole system, rush out this new vaccine, force it upon people, and they don't get passports unless they have it. And next thing we know, 5 years later, it causes cancer or something, right? These things we can't approach with universal mandates. If there is an informed consent, and informed consent means you know the risk and there's liability being held to the people who are delivering that risk. We don't have that right now. We don't have informed consent on vaccines, and we don't have liability going back to the people that make them. Doesn't mean all vaccines are bad. Some of them work really well, but the liability there is, I think, is the real issue, particularly if something's rushed to market.
That's a really good point. The conversation with vaccines is so black and white everywhere. It's like you're either anti-vaxxer or pro-vaxxer, and it's just ridiculous because, like any medication, there's ones that work and ones that have side effects with certain people, work with some groups, don't work with others. There's all sorts of variables, and it's ridiculous to sort of put. And this is the problem that I'm seeing with this, that it's become so polarized that if you have a view on vaccines, you're instantly an anti-vaxxer. Like if you say, well, I think they should really not just, I don't want to take a vaccine that's rushed out. And you're like, whoa, your vaccines, they're good. And it's like, hang on, whoa. Just, there's a spectrum here that's not in the conversation.
Well, none of those same folks who want to quickly throw you under the bus as being anti-science, if you ask them, are you anti-antibiotics or pro-antibiotics? And they'll suddenly nuance the hell out of you, saying, well, it depends. Z-Paks are okay here, and penicillin has good here. It was like, okay, now we're having a conversation about each drug and the safety of each individual drug. Do the same thing with vaccines.
Yeah.
Don't collectivize them all. Some vaccines can be dangerous to some people and some can be very beneficial, but every one of them has a different safety profile. And so we shouldn't assume just because a corona vaccine comes out tomorrow that it has the testing and the safety profile of ones that have been on the market for 20 years. There's just no way that's true. But you're right. No one wants to discuss it that way. It's politicized. So now it's turned into a false dichotomy because that's the only way the news can discuss things is you're either, left or right or pro or anti. I think the drugs are going to come faster because they can repurpose drugs. You can take drugs that are already through FDA, target them on this thing, and test those very quickly and get around the FDA in many ways. And that's what we're seeing with these malaria drugs, with hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine and quinine. And we're going to see that, I think another tenfold, where many other drugs are going to get repurposed for this.
I've stocked up on tonic water. Stocked up.
I'm doing it right here.
So Kevin, have you followed, talking about vaccines, right? Everybody always thinks of Bill Gates, right? And people say, Bill Gates, the eugenicist. And then, he does have a really big interest in vaccines. He said some funny things. But what was unusual to me was the Event 201 that took place in October or November. Are you familiar with that? Because that just seemed a little bit strange and coincidental.
So I heard about that. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole. But yeah, my general advice is I don't take medical advice from people that have openly said they want to do population control.
And has he said that? Do you think that was taken out of context?
Yeah, he's been on a TED talk where he's been talking about population control. So he's clearly got a little of Paul Ehrlich in him and this population bomb nonsense. And so anyone who, I just don't listen to people like that. Sorry, they think humans are a virus on this earth and that need to be controlled. And ultimately it's because they have fear and they want to do the controlling.
Yeah, sounds like it. What about these people that are taking chloroquine, but they're taking it from the aquarium? Obviously, that probably wasn't a good call. Don't hit the aquarium shop. But a lot of people are scared, and there might be some things at home that they can take. Obviously, they shouldn't do that. But are there things that they can do? What if you think you have corona and your area is really flooded with a lot of people at the hospitals, and you don't want to go there? Is there anything that anybody can do? So
I recommend people get, there are physicians now that will work out of the system. It's called direct primary care. See if you can find physicians like that because they're out of pocket. It's an additional expense, but it's small. You'd be surprised at how affordable it is. And then you have more or less a concierge doctor that can give you good advice in times like this because there are a lot of these other potential things that may attenuate coronavirus that are advertised on the internet. And a lot of these drugs can have adverse effects with other drugs that you're taking. So it's really hard to hand anybody YouTube advice on go take X, Y, or Z without a physician really looking over everything else that you're on. But I really like this direct primary care model because this means these physicians don't work in the healthcare, they don't work in the insurance business at all. They only take cash. And when doctors start taking cash, there's price signals and they start making decisions that are much more rational than the decisions we're seeing being made where there's insurance companies involved dictating what the protocols are, dictating what doctors can and can't do. That all turns into a mess. And so I think it's important, particularly if it's a very libertarian audience, is support these physicians that are trying to get the hell out because the system is imploding and we're watching it in real time. And the physicians that are brave enough to step out and do this kind of direct primary care model, I think are the future. And they're the people that could help right now because they're much more decentralized. They're not going to be sitting in hospitals waiting for you to come in, and that's where a lot of the super spreading is happening. The way to solve this is even when we looked in 1918 was much more decentralized. We had a lot more home care back then. Everyone right now rushing to the hospital is a bad idea.
Josh, what do you think? Are you guys getting kind of like a big flood of people over there? Do you think that people being quarantined I guess you don't think it's the right move?
No, I mean, I think it was definitely the right move in the beginning. Personally, I don't think the government should have anything to do with it. I think people should have done it. I mean, it's pretty obvious something comes out of Wuhan. You've just got to assume it's a bioweapon and prepare for the worst. And then slowly, as new data comes out. And of course, the thing was, when I started preparing, sort of late January, everyone was angry at me. They were calling me a fool. Oh, you've done this so many times. I remember at 9/11, you moved to the Blue Mountains, and during swine flu, you just bought up cans of stuff. It never happened. And I was like, yeah, but hang on a minute. This one has a 2-week period where the people are asymptomatic spreading this thing. This is different, guys. There's something here. Yeah. And they'd be like, you're causing panic. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm not. I'm calmly going to the store. I'm buying some stuff. I'm not causing panic. And you know who's panicking now? All those people. And not only panicking, they're openly calling for more and more government crackdown on people. They're like full Stasi, on their balcony with their cell phones, taking pictures of people and sending it into the police. There's 3 people on the street. And they've become, because I think what's happened is that they didn't give themselves the time to actually become used to the idea. So I had all of February to get used to the idea of wow, this looks pretty serious. I might withdraw my family into a house with my food and my water and be able to sort of ride this one out for a little bit at least. And these other people, a lot of other people, got really angry and now are demanding massive control mechanisms. And it's kind of weird.
Yeah. We're seeing the same thing up here too. And it's frustrating because you do see all of these folks turning to the state to try and control this. And none of it makes sense. All right, so you want to take a person who's out surfing on a paddleboard and arrest them, where 2 other individuals come and blow their germs all over them and throw them in a prison, where the prison industry has put out alerts that prisons are now super spreaders and they want to release the prisons because they're afraid that they're going to be spreading it in there. So they're running around taking photos to fill prisons while prisons are sending out actual criminals, perhaps. It makes no sense. It's just absolute panic and fear.
And this is why it's really important that people take self-responsibility. And I think Sweden's mechanism now is really quite sensible. They're saying, look, let's protect the old people. Let's protect people that have underlying conditions and let everyone else start to get this virus and start building antibodies. Because once we've got the antibodies above 50% of the population, I think it's probably more like 70%, then you start to see a massive decline, and you can start to let the elderly back out.
I think their prime minister had something really sentient to say, which was that we're not the ones doing the experiment here. The rest of you are.
Yeah.
It's never been done before.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
What's the medical friends and stuff that you have? What's the vibe on the ground from the people that you know? I mean, you're a little bit on the fringe, right? Because people interested in medical marijuana are a little bit more forward thinking, but what's the vibe with the community?
So yeah, my sister is actually an electrophysiologist and is on the front lines dealing with a lot of the cardiovascular complications that come with this. But they only recently have had a spike this last week, I think, or when some of the first patients started to arrive. So they don't have a real good feel for numbers yet. I have heard from I've got another cousin of mine who runs a hospital, and some of their challenges are that they kind of essentially planned and everyone got ready for this and canceled all the other electives. And now the hospitals are all running out of money and having to cut people's salary and cut people's pay because they all decided to work on one thing. And that's maybe not the best approach. I think Alaska versus New York City are going to have very different rates of this, perhaps different onsets, different curves. And this flattening of the curve is really collectivizing and taking averages of many different medical, I'd say, geographics, if you will, or demographics.
Right.
Not everyone needs to flatten the curve at the same time. I think each hospital and each district probably has to evaluate the influx of patients and manage that more accordingly. But instead, we have this really large social media shaming going on of everyone not participating in the flattening of the curve behavior, and we all have to do it at the same time. It all has to happen now. Well, in doing so, all the hospitals doing the same thing on the same day, waiting for all this to happen, means they're all starving right now, not performing the other procedures that they used to use to book revenue. So there's that going on. I think a lot of the nurses I know think it's way overblown. The media the microphone needs to be attenuated from the media in any way we can, because they see this caseload can be very manageable with the number of ventilators people have. And it's not just a ventilator issue that's kind of brought up in the news. You need people to run the ventilators, and you can't train them fast enough. So you can't, these things don't run themselves. A nurse can probably handle 3 to 4 of them, but they can't handle 10 of them at once. So there's still, I think, a lot of confusion. I think the medical community is more calm and clear-headed about all this, and listening to the letters that they're writing, I find to be more valuable than reading anything that's coming out of the news. I think the news is all politicized, sensationalized, and is out there to sell fear and get everyone up in a tizzy for compliance.
Well, there also seems to be the issue where they're incentivizing states to classify people as dying of coronavirus. If they have a multitude of different issues, they want to classify them as COVID because they want to get the goodies from the state. So in order to get more federal assistance, because a lot of these states have been running on a deficit anyway, now they're saying, oh, everybody's dying of corona, give us some more goodies and we need more money. And so it's a kind of a perverse incentive, because then there's a whole lot of people that maybe are not dying strictly from that at all, but then it's just being categorized in that way. So it's unfortunate that the state is involved.
Well, have a look at that Nevada governor who came out and banned outpatient use of chloroquine, like after Trump started talking about it. And Trump wasn't the first person to discover this. This stuff was in the literature at bioRxiv and medRxiv back in like January. He just got turned on to it. And once he did, half the population now hates that approach and is trying to ban it. It seems to be like the Democratic governors are banning it. That person was just discovered as like hoarding the drug himself. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Nevada governor. He banned it for outpatient use.
What a piece of garbage.
Hey, Lynn, how are you?
Hi, good to see you.
You as well. We were just talking about prisons and hoping that things are going well with Ross and that there isn't a COVID outbreak wherever he's stationed in Colorado.
Good question.
He's in Tucson, and there is one.
Okay.
There is a case, not in his unit, but they've got them all on lockdown. So he's in his cell, except for 2-hour break to make calls and get a shower, which in a way doesn't make sense because you can catch it then, but whatever. And he's in his cell, and he's going to do a 10-day meditation retreat, he decided. So he's going to be meditating for 10 days straight. And I'm like, really? Okay. So that's how he's going to manage it. Yeah, I mean, the prison's a petri dish. It's like they're crammed in, and things spread very quickly in prisons. So,
yeah, that's definitely what we wanted to talk a little bit about that with you, Lynn. For people who are not familiar with Lynn is the mother of Ross Ulbricht, the alleged creator of the Silk Road. She's been on the Tatiana Show many times. And I think it's something that we don't often think about, but they've been letting out a lot of different prisoners. There is this big fear. Is it a good thing that they're letting everybody out? I mean, generally we want less people in the prisons, but do you think that there's a threat that violent people are being let out into the streets? And are those people infected?
Well, I mean, I think it's a very good trend to be letting nonviolent people out. I think no nonviolent people should be in a cage. That's my perspective. However, I don't think it'll impact Ross, because I believe they're just focusing on high risk people who are older or ill, or at the end of their sentence, perhaps. Obviously, they're saying only nonviolent people to be released, which, I get that totally, but someone like Ross, who's completely nonviolent, all his charges are nonviolent, he shouldn't be in there anyway. But I don't have a lot of hope that Ross will be among the people released because of this, because he's young and healthy, and he's in a maximum security prison. The prisons that I've seen they're releasing from are medium and low security. So, but I think it's a good trend. I think it's good for people to think about, well, maybe our prisons are overcrowded. Maybe they are dangerous for people to be in. And apparently there was a guy who applied for, under the First Step Act, a shortened sentence, and the prosecutors, being prosecutors, denied it. They were fighting it, and he died. So basically, he had a death sentence for a nonviolent minor drug offense because of these. And, you know, I'm hoping that this will at least shine a bit of a light on the whole situation in the prisons and the criminal justice system and how it's run and how corrupt it is and what a disaster it really is.
Well, you guys have been trying to collect a lot of signatures. You've had, I mean, close to 300,000 signatures on change.org.
Yep.
Is that effort somewhat derailed with the attention to coronavirus? And I know that you've been going around getting the support of various presidential candidates. I think a lot of them have been eliminated now, but do you think that that's going to still be something that you're pursuing in advance of the election?
Oh yeah, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're still getting signatures. People are home on their computers. Maybe that's a good thing. Yeah, please, anybody watching this, please go to freeross.org/petition and sign and share it. Please, I want to get to 500,000. That's my goal. But 300,000 would be a nice round figure. And no, I'm still in communication with people, trying to get people's attention on the internet, you know, and emailing. Obviously, conferences are out and, you know, trips and all of that for now. But, it's shut everything down. But no, we're not giving up or anything. We're going to keep on plugging away where we can.
So are people going to hear any more from Ross? Is there any kind of content plan to kind of tell that story? There have been, you know, threats of like more smear pieces out of Hollywood. Is there ever something where people can kind of get the kind of the story from Ross? How does that look in the future? Or is this more something that you have to put on the back burner until you try and approach President Trump? Because that story really hasn't been told. So what do you think the future is on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, one good thing from the virus is the film festival where this total piece of garbage film about Ross and full of lies was going to premiere. So I was happy about that, at least, because the festival was canceled. But as far as, you know, we do have the untold story on our website that's backed up by all kinds of citations, almost 400 footnotes. But that's not Ross from himself telling his personal story. Mm-hmm. But that's there, and it's quite riveting. It's quite eye-opening about what happened in the whole thing. But no, I think he's been writing essays and about Bitcoin, about cosmology, about all kinds of things that are up on Medium and also on our website. So he is doing some writing, but he's not writing his personal story right now.
Okay, well, I'm sure that a lot of listeners would love to hear that, but they can also see the Deep Web movie, and there's a ton of different talks where Lynn goes through the case. If you're tuning in now and you aren't really familiar with the Silk Road case, it's quite a lot of action, very dramatic, and so something to get familiar with. Anything else, Lynn, that you want to hit on, or Josh, do you have any questions for Lynn now that we're talking a little bit about Corona and some of the impact that it has on the prison industrial complex victims?
Yeah, I mean, this was something that very much interested me because prisons, you know, a lot of old folks' homes are like prisons in a way because these older people can't get out. They're sort of stuck, and they are also petri dishes, and but prisons. You know, I wanted to know what the aged populations are in prisons, because you always think of younger people in prison, but actually so many people have got such ridiculously long sentences for such silly crimes that I really don't know what the average age is in the prison system in the US.
No, I don't know the average age. I think it is young. Life expectancy in a prison is not long either, but there is a growing population of very old, elderly even, ill people in prison. And when they apply for compassionate release, the prosecutors or the warden or whoever fights it. It's unbelievable. What, this ancient guy who's can barely walk is a threat now? You know, it's our criminal justice system it's abhorrent. It's an absolute national disgrace.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to fall by the wayside now, though. I mean, it seems like we're kind of being ushered into almost a new level of surveillance, and people are all too happy to give up their freedom. So I wonder how much people are going to remember, because there's been quite a lot of pushback against quite a lot of government institutions, and prisons are not popular. But I don't know what's going to happen now. I mean, are they going to start putting people in prison for walking down the street with their coronavirus?
They're threatening that, aren't they? I mean, didn't the mayor of DC threaten it and others? They're threatening that. It's very alarming. I'm like, oh, really? And by what authority are you going to do that?
Right.
You know, but yeah, we're seeing some things unfold right now before our eyes that to me are very, very disturbing. You know, like you're saying, where our freedoms, this kind of reminds me of after 9/11, how I think that's what it's going to be like after this. It's going to be, oh, and we have this now, and you have to have your papers to show you had your vaccine, and blah, 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 blah. And you can't travel unless, you know, this is my prediction. I don't, you know, but it looks like that's the direction it's going.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of craziness. I guess we're going to see how crazy it gets. You know, we've got to be prepared. I don't know if I need all the different things that I got. What have you been preparing, Lynn? What's your prepper routine? And Kevin, you need to tell us your prepper routine.
Yeah,
you have 7 steps. Kevin's got 7 steps to prepping. And then we've got Juan, Galt, and Anastasiya coming on. I've heard that their prepping skills are pretty awesome too. So, but Lynn, what are you doing to stay safe?
Well, of course, mine are not very good at all. I'm basically, I have stuff to take to boost my immune system, trying to stay healthy. I live in a fairly isolated situation, but I'm in Tucson and not really doing much. I'm not really not concerned. I think there's 41 deaths in the entire state. I think it's overblown, and so I'm just doing what I do, but of course everything's been shut down, so I am much more isolated. Thankfully, my daughter's with me, but a friend just came over today. I don't know. I mean, she's not sick. I'm not worried about it. It's just, I feel like it's like as if there's a flu season. I don't know. It doesn't, I mean, I wish I were more of a prepper in general, except that it's been hard because I've been following Ross around. I don't have you know, a whole prepper situation here.
Yeah, I wonder if you can prep in prison. Like, what would you even be able to prep?
Well, Ross stocked up from the commissary when he heard this was coming down. He did order extra from the commissary so he could have some food in his cell besides what they're feeding him, which he does anyway, but this way he has it, so he's plenty of food. So he did that. That's about it, I think, all you can do. And I did go buy extra food and, you know, just to have it in case there were shortages, because everybody's freaking out and buying more than they normally would and stuff like that. But it seems in Tucson, at least, things are fairly normal. So
the FDA just relinquished their regulations over hand sanitizer. So expect your hand sanitizer to suddenly kill you.
Oh, wow. I'm afraid without their regulation, however, will we survive?
Yeah.
I use soap. I don't understand that, you know, isn't it, am I wrong? This is a virus and we're using antibacterial sanitizer?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
If over a certain ethanol percentage, apparently it works. But yeah, soap is less regulated by the FDA. So you're talking to the person there.
Actually,
and also we're loading up our bodies with all these antibiotics that make it so you can't really fight a real bacteria when it hits, right? I mean, supposedly, I don't like loading up on that stuff anyway, so.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello. Hi.
Good. How's everyone doing?
Nice to see you guys.
You too.
Hey, so this is like a prepared couple over here. Guys, say hello to everybody. We've got Anastasiya and Juan on the Tatiana Show. Welcome, guys. I like your set.
Thank you. This is Ugly Old Goat set. We're at the Bitcoin house in Mexico. So yeah, we're working with the Bitcoin trader and stuff.
What's the vibe down in Mexico? Are you guys like exploding over there from Corona or what?
No, but we're super chill down here. Like there is like masks. People are starting to wear masks, and there's somewhat. I think there's a curfew now where we're at. But for the most part, it's business as usual. You see the streets. There's cars driving up and down. We're actually growing. We're expanding. We have a trading room right down here where we teach people how to trade Bitcoin, how to manage their money in an efficient way, which is a great business during a lockdown because we're still making money. Like I haven't made this much money in a while, and so we're actually expanding during this. And then the other house that we have,
Ugly Old Goat's wife is making masks down here because she's a fashion designer, and so she has a ton of fabric and all of the sewing machines, and she has a bunch of employees, and she's been growing exponentially. We started out with I think making maybe 1,000 masks a day when we first started, and now production is ramped up to about 4,000 to 5,000 masks a day, and we're hiring more people.
Wow.
And she has more customers than employees at the moment because the panic's kind of hitting a little bit, but it's definitely nothing like in the U.S. The president here has been making a bit of a joke out of it.
Joking about it the whole time.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to joke about Corona? I mean, is this a laughing matter?
He's joking about it.
I think
jokes are inside jokes only. Got it?
it's definitely, the response to it is definitely a little out of proportion in my opinion. So I think that's where the joke is. Yeah. And the official kind of prescriptions seem to be a really big joke to them because what the CDC and all of the other organizations have been telling us to social distance way too late, to self-quarantine way too late, and they still refuse to accept that masks actually do work in reducing the spread of viruses and bacteria. And one of my friends just had a really nice iconographic on Twitter yesterday that showed all of the airflow in front of your face in purple and the difference between how much of it comes out when you're wearing a mask versus how much comes out when you're not. And I mean, this is common sense stuff. And instead of, the media panicking and these organizations not telling us the truth of what's going on, they could have just told us to be prepared by boosting our immune system, buying groceries for our grandparents, wearing masks, making sure you're washing your hands a lot. And their response just came too late. So, I mean, they're kind of taking it as a joke, in my opinion.
So are you guys self-quarantining? Are you taking this, are you taking it to the limit or what?
Yeah, I mean, we're being careful. We're definitely staying home. We're not going out to any parties or social events. We're just sort of staying down here. Mexican families are very big, so there's a lot of people kind of moving around and stuff. And we're expanding. We're actually expanding our operation here. So we're building out a room, doing a little bit of construction and stuff. But we're keeping it practical, right? Like we're not taking unnecessary risks, but we're not going to stop living because of this. And I think, the internet is a multiplier of emotions, right? And the images that were coming out of China were out of like a post-apocalyptic movie. And the fear and the unknown and the uncertainty was this viral meme and terrified everybody. But if you look at Google trend metrics, right, of coronavirus, COVID-19, for pretty much every country that I've looked at, we've peaked and we're correcting now. We're like, the wave of panic has hit and is behind us. What's coming is the economic wave, the economic shock that is a consequence of this fear and this sort of isolation and people not going to work and all this stuff. So that's the next level. And then on top of that, all the government stuff that's happened.
Yeah.
So I think
When you say we have peaked, do you mean we, the United States, or we, Mexico?
We the world. We the world. If you look at
we the humans.
We the world. Yeah. Google trend metrics for multiple countries: Italy, Mexico, United States, like South Korea. Interest in the terms coronavirus has peaked and it's already down 40%. Right, almost over all of them. And I tweet about it, and you guys can go check it out. Trends.google.com. You can play with that. Right, so. I think the fear's behind us, but the economic shock is ahead of us. And there's a lot of misreporting too, right? Like there's this chart that you shared recently that's pneumonia deaths over time. Like every year there's kind of like a peak and a valley, right? And then this year's like peak valley 40% crash, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like there's a lot of misreporting of deaths, right? Basically, anybody that dies today of anything, if they have COVID-19, they're going to be categorized as a COVID-19 death.
Right.
So I think that the fear is bigger than the threat, but at the same time, because this thing is so contagious, it can overwhelm hospitals in theory. So anyway, it's just a big chaos.
The newest information coming out of China, and that's as much as we can trust it, is that most people are asymptomatic. So we could have all had it already, and it's just hitting the people on the outskirts, the grandparents who don't get many visitors, and the people who are really high risk are starting to get it and overwhelm the healthcare system. But for the most part, if most of us are asymptomatic and we had no idea that we've been spreading it around and it's not really hitting us that badly, well, right now we're at 50,000 deaths around the world. Yeah. And those numbers don't even come close to all of the other things that, that are a threat to us. Yeah. Even just the regular seasonal flu. So I agree with Juan. I think that, whether the coronavirus is worse than it's being reported or is less threatening than what's being reported, the economic consequences have already started. And that, for me personally, is what I want to be prepared for the most, because this is something that we've been talking about for, decades in the libertarian and anarchist communities. This is what we've been preparing for as Bitcoiners. And we're seeing how fragile our society is in the healthcare industry, in the prison industry, right? In the financial industry, in the supply chain industry. And all of these weaknesses are now being exploited and really hitting all at once. So what we're going to see in the future, what if supply chains break down even more because of all this unemployment? Employing people isn't, you're unemployed one day and you have a job the next day. There's processes that we have to go through, and there's going to be a lag when the governments try to start up the economy like it's a button, like it's a car, you can just turn it on. That's not how it works. And especially when we're talking about the global economy. So preparing for that, I think, is the most important. And that does mean that we have extra water. We're trying to shop less and get more supplies at one time. We are trying to make money by doing these masks and doing, he's doing the trading stuff, and try to kind of cushion the wealth that we have in case we are going to need to spend more because prices are going to rise. What's going to happen to all prices because of hyperinflation in the next year. So it's definitely a long-term kind of prep. But it's something that I think everybody should really be focusing on. What happens when the things that we have right now in our luxurious kind of first and second world aren't there anymore in 6 months?
Yeah, the problem is you can't eat money, right? And the Western world is just very much used to solving problems by printing money. But if there's nobody producing food, if there's nobody producing the goods and services that people need, there's nothing you can do with the money. And that's where the inflation hits. It's not clear whether or not there's going to be inflation. We actually had a show yesterday with a little goat, and Tom Vase showed up, and we were talking about this whole inflation thing. And there's reasons to think prices are actually going to go down because there's sort of overstock of things that are not being bought because people aren't spending money and so on. So prices might actually go down for a bit. But then afterwards, when the economy shrinks, there might be an inflation, right? So who knows what's going to happen exactly. But the bottom line is, I think we're going to see the market, as far as we see it, has fundamentally changed. There's no real normal to go back to.
In just 3 weeks, right? So what if something changes within 3 weeks in 6 months? What if something changes within 3 weeks in a year? Right? You have to kind of think a little bit ahead. As Bitcoiners, we have a low time preference. So we do think about 5 years in advance, 10 years in advance, 20 years in advance, but most of the population doesn't. And, I was raised in a family where thinking 10, 20, 30, and even legacies in advance, right? Kids and grandkids and stuff like that is something that's very integral to kind of our family unit. And so we've always been taught to look ahead, like what happens in 10 years. My dad's been preparing for this since I was born, right? He had kids and he was like, oh my gosh, right? What's going to happen to them in 10, 20 years? What can I do now to make sure that in that time frame, if something happens in the world, I can still take care of my family. And so right now he's been planting apples for the last couple of years because apples grow almost anywhere, and he's in Russia, and that's a pretty, brutal climate sometimes. So, but apples grow pretty much anywhere, and they're a really great trading, source. They're food. People are always going to want them. It's something that one of my great grandfathers did as well. He had an apple orchard. So that's the way that he's going, right? In any kind of situation where there's a major societal collapse, no matter what the trigger is, you have to make sure that you have items like goods or services that are going to be really needed. So if you can fix stuff, that's something that's going to be really needed. If you can grow food, that's something that's going to be needed. If you can make alcohol, that's something that's going to be needed. So you have to really expand your idea of just going to the store and buying a bunch of toilet paper versus, hey, how can I make recycled paper out of whatever else I have in the house in case I need it?
Yeah. So another thing that I've been noticing along this theme is, how many people are over leveraged in their life. They have loans on top of loans. They have a credit line, right? And have to keep making those payments, and suddenly something like this happens, and they get laid off, or they can't. Their business just gets made non-essential, and suddenly nobody's buying your stuff, right? I'm happy that last bull market I put some money aside and we built a house in Colombia, for example, and right now we're living with people that own their property, and so there's no payments that need to be made, right? On the flip side, if you're a landlord depending on rent payments, you're going to be in trouble right now because nobody's going to be paying rent right now if the situation is that bad. But if I think anybody that the economy crashed because everybody was over leveraged, but America had no production, very little production, manufacturing of essential goods and services. So the stock market just plummeted, right?
And no ownership. Everyone, I've seen this trend of kind of along with the eat the rich, movement.
Wait, what is the eat the rich movement? I don't like those people. It's so stupid sounding.
Communism, yeah.
Great. Just what the world needs is more of those.
Yeah, but the rich are the worst ones in society because they're hoarding all the wealth, and they basically stole it all, no matter what they did and no matter what they offered back for their gains. And sure, there's corruption within corporate systems.
Illuminati. Just not really. We need to get to that.
But there's just as many small businesses, right, that are just little mom and pop shops or Etsy store owners, or people who resell things from China, like that just have an operation of a husband and a wife, or 5 employees in a small WeWork space. There's not just corporations, but the eat the rich movement is basically like it's kind of like I don't know, whatever. It's the modern communists, right? And their new thing is that all landlords are slumlords. So why should I pay my rent? Why didn't they prepare? Everybody lost their jobs, and they're like, well, I don't have a job, so I'm not paying my rent. And it's like, well, you have a contract to do that, and it's kind of not, the landlord's fault either, and that's one of your bills. But then at the same time, the landlords are probably over leveraged, and I'm seeing a lot of reports of what's going to happen to all of the people who bought properties to Airbnb them, and all of a sudden the entire travel industry is gone. And so they're still trying to pay their mortgages on all these properties, but they're not renting it out to anybody because no one's traveling. And what impact is that going to have on the economy in the next couple of months when it catches up? Yeah,
that's something that I've been paying a lot of attention to, is what are the economic consequences of it. But we've been talking for like 10 minutes straight now, so we'll give the floor for a little bit.
No, I think you guys are bringing up good points. I think the economic questions are the biggest. Kevin, you're still hanging with us. I'm happy to see that. You had some 7 things that you're doing to stay alive. Lynn, you better write these down.
Yeah, you're right. I do not.
Right? Me and you were like, I don't know about this. Actually, I've been very good. I'm very prepared.
I had to confess to having bought, I think, some dried, post 9/11 anthrax era, I went and got preppy and got some dried food and a bunch of other stuff. And of course, I go to crack it open, 2 decades later, thinking there's going to be cobwebs and it probably doesn't even have what it claimed to have in it. And the company's probably no longer around. But it turned out it was there. The dried food was there. But there were N95 masks in there, which I never even knew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Lucky
like
you.
6 boxes of 30 or something. So I went and dragged them to the local. We've got a doctor here in town who's a direct primary care. They don't have any masks, so I went down and gave them some, sent some to my sister. But they also had a UV device to UV mail.
Nice.
It's about the size of a letter, and it runs UVB or UVC over your mail. This here not everyone needs this. If you have AFib, this is good if you're going to take quinine or any of these drugs. These drugs that are people are using are malaria drugs, and they can extend the long QT interval. That's the main risk of some of these drugs. So,
Hey, Kevin, that's what almost killed me. My QT interval got extended, and I almost died.
Wow.
Like in 2015. Yeah, but anyway, it's a real thing. Yeah.
So you can't take these things like people who are taking aquarium cleaner. That's crazy. There can be side effects. So you gotta know how much you're taking. You gotta know how pure it is. Those things are certainly important. I don't know what else to do. Oh, we did develop a PCR test to actually test for COVID because we couldn't figure out where to get one. You need to be particular lab status to get them. For a while, you had to get them through the CDC. So we just went out and made our own, so our employees could just, intrigue their curiosity. Do they have it? Don't they have it? This only looks for RNA, though. It's really not as applicable as the antibody stuff that's coming out this week. So that's. But we're legally not allowed to run that. We can't sell it or offer it to anybody else because we're not a CLIA laboratory. We used to have a CLIA laboratory many years ago, but the Affordable Care Act came out and made all care unaffordable, and so we ended up shutting down that CLIA lab and focused on doing cannabis safety testing. But it's kind of crazy. There's so many regulations that people who have worked in genetics for 26 years, I used to work on the Human Genome Project, I'm legally not allowed to actually test anybody for COVID. And this is a test that people can do.
They're keeping us safer, Kevin. They're keeping us safer.
Yes, they are. Lots of regulations that they have out there. So it's better to be in a different jurisdiction. Other countries don't have these things, and they're picking up testing just much faster. So
Wow. Well,
yeah, I don't think I have any other to offer other than read up on quinine and these drugs. I think they're real, and but just get a doctor involved if you have any issues.
Okay. Yeah, I like the teledocs. We have a couple new guests in the room. We got Sasha Hodder and DJ J Scrilla in his house. What's up, everybody? That's like my hip hop voice. It's like we've got like a rapper coming in. Hey guys, looking good, looking cool. What's up? Are those all records behind you?
That's part of the records.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, welcome to Prepperpalooza, guys. You guys look like you're alive and making it through. I know that Skrilla's been prepping for a while, keeping his ladies safe. I'm happy to hear that because you guys can't just be sitting at home sad. You need to be playing some tunes. And Skrilla's been working on songs for ages that are kind of educating people about cryptocurrency, how that could take them off of the government system.
It's amazing that you're building your own test, Kevin. Have you successfully built one? Is it working?
Yeah. So what we did is we just ordered some reagents from a company called IDT. They made reagents. They're primers that can test this. And then we just coupled those with some enzymes from a company called Agilent to test that these other reagents would work because there have been some shortages in certain companies' reagents, and Agilent had reagents, and they're big companies. So we basically just took those and ran them on positive controls to show that they, in fact, can detect COVID and differentiate it from SARS. And
how did you get positive controls?
DNA that's synthesized. It's not. We don't have the live virus in our lab. That requires more like BO3 handling. But you can actually get the DNA made by another company to demonstrate that the test actually has sensitivity. The next bottleneck was we don't have any nasal pharyngeal swabs, and some data just came out showing you can get it out of sputum pretty effectively. And so I think people will start migrating to sputum tests, which will be much more comfortable than shoving something up to tickle your brain. That's the current method. That's, I wouldn't recommend doing that on yourself or on your friend. I think you want a physician to use that thing. But now if the sputum things work, more people could possibly do it. But no, we just got to the point where we wanted to have the test running so that our employees could use it if they needed. And if the state ever opened up testing to a larger audience to include non-CLIA laboratories, we'd be ready to roll and contribute. But at the moment, we're actually held on the sidelines from doing anything until regulations change.
Wow.
Right.
How shocking. Can't
Yeah,
imagine.
crazy.
The government getting in the way. So who else do we have coming up on the show? Michelle, you've been awful quiet. Michelle's been prepping like crazy for many years. Her parents have been prepping. How many cans of food do you have, Michelle? Is canned food really the way to go?
Actually, I'm not a big fan of canned food. Like, prepping has changed so much. My dad was a prepper, my whole life, so like 30 years ago. And not really so much like a doomsday, the world is going to end prepper, but more like in a situation like this where there are runs on food, or you're not able to easily get out, or there are limits on how much you can buy. Just not being in a panic situation if you have to deal with something like that. So, I mean, around my house in particular, I've got me and 3 of my kids still at home. We didn't have to go out and really get anything because our regular buying habits are keep enough, flour and sugar and yeast in the house to make our own bread, keep enough meat in the freezer to cook some meals, lots of root vegetables because they keep and they're super cheap. Like, that's kind of our regular shopping habits anyway. So luckily, I won't lie though, we do stock up on toilet paper. Like, that I learned from my mom, because if there is one like modern convenience that you really don't want to throw back to in an emergency, it's like substitutions for toilet paper. So I do have a wall full of toilet paper, but that's like I didn't have to go out and get any. It's just something we do. Oh yeah, there's extra money. Let me grab an extra 48 pack this month.
Wow. Well, I feel like toilet paper, I always thought toilet paper was stupid, but I told Josh my theory. I feel like if they were waiting for toilet paper in communist Russia, then that means that there were problems with the toilet paper supply. And it's not up to me to decide what those problems are, but history seems to indicate that TP is a hot commodity.
Oh, yeah.
Anastasia, do you know, because your parents are Russian?
I think to this day, every time I go to Russia, I'm just shocked at how crappy the toilet paper is. I swear, it's just like regular paper, but thinner. and I think my dad doesn't care too much, maybe because he grew up with it. But every time I come home, I'll scour the stores for some 2-ply extra soft one instead.
You're spoiled now.
Yeah, just a little bit. From being from America and like living most of my life in America, I definitely see in myself a lot of that like luxurious expectations sometimes. And I'm also, totally fine in the woods with no toilet paper, right? Living by a river with no electricity. But at the same time, when I'm in the modern world, I'm like, well, I kind of want that extra convenience, So yeah, but I think Michelle made a really good point, is that, and this is what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, prepping decreases panic. And that, I think, is the most important thing, because when stuff like this happens, the scariest part is the panic, the worry that you don't have enough, the stress of it all, which during a health crisis specifically isn't really great for you. The more stressed out you are, the more you're likely to get whatever's going around. And it could just be not corona, it could just be a really bad flu strain, right? So being prepared lowers the panic. And that's really, really important for you and your family when everybody else is panicking and stressing out.
Right.
Yeah.
In Asia, they have sprayers, and you can get handheld bidets and things like that on the internet.
Whoa.
Like
It makes a lot of
Oh yeah, everybody should have a bidet.
To bidets. I think that's definitely.
We don't have bidets in America. That's
So they have
Yeah, but you
handheld
can order
sprayers.
one
really
like
weird.
on Amazon. Yeah, you can
get
order
them
one
on
on
Amazon.
Amazon for $20. Everybody should have a bidet. So
Right.
Days are awesome.
Great. I
Yeah,
just have
like
to figure out how to install it. I'm not, but anyway. Supposedly it's easy.
we were actually really lucky. My ex called me. We cloth diapered all of our kids, and
Me too.
if you cloth diapered, one of the great modern convenience of cloth diaper now versus 1950s is a handy little diaper sprayer that hooked up to your toilet, right? My ex was like, back when this first started coming in, he's like, hey, I just took out that toilet sprayer. Who are we sharing custody of this thing or what? So because we've got the kids going back and forth, and it was interesting just realizing that we had these kind of things already because we were in that mindset for so long. I think the funny thing, the only concern we had early on is my parents are very far away from me and they're not necessarily in the best of health. And the question for me really was, do I go there to be with them? But they're preppers. I mean, they are full-on preppers. They could eat 10 years and never have the same meal twice, and, you know, solar power backups and everything like that. So they don't need me there in terms of taking care of things for them. But, you know, just being, would I be able to get to them if their health started to go downhill for whatever reason? That was the larger concern for me. So when you're a prepper, there's like two kinds. There's the staying put prepping, making your home a comfortable place that has everything you need. So you do reduce the panic and you don't have to rush out and get things. Or are you paying attention enough when something starts to happen early enough on to make that, am I bugging out? Whether you're bugging out just because you want to get away from a city or you have somewhere else you want to be, like at my parents' house. I mean, I think a large part of prepping isn't so much having stuff there as it is knowing how to sort through information and being prepared. Like, if staying put is not what you want to do for whatever reason, are you ready to just not have to make major preparations to get out the door so you can get where you want to be? And I think that's something that's not talked about a lot. You know, I don't buy canned food, by the way. It's like, to me, the worst thing. It's a last resort for me.
Really? Why? What's so bad about canned food?
I'm spoiled rotten. I have like a little container gardens, and I saw you had your fresh herbs, and you can make a whole lot of stuff with, you know, what you can grow in containers in your backyard. It's cheaper, it's fresher, it tastes better, and you don't have to go store it. You don't have to go get it.
Not everybody has a garden, though. That's the other.
But, you know, I don't either, really. I have 4 of those Sterilite plastic containers: peppers, onions, tomatoes, potatoes. They're like the best thing ever for a quick garden. If you have a patio, you can put 8 of those and have an entire garden on your back patio. So, yeah, I think the staying put and bugging out thing is a prepper thing that isn't distinguished a lot, because they're really 2 different activities. I mean, you know, are you able to make a couple of phone calls, shut down utilities, have somebody watch your house, grab a bag and get out the door and get wherever you want to go? And do you have, you know, one of my biggest things is, do I have solar chargers for batteries? Do I have a device that'll display maps offline? Is all of this, you know, are my guns and my ammo, you know, all together? Can I grab 2 bags and head out the door?
Yeah, I got a lot of junk here, by the way. I wanted to show people some of the things that I got. So this is a life straw. By the way, so we're going to have links at the bottom of this episode. And Lynn, actually, we're going to use the Amazon link for Ross. So anytime, if you guys end up buying any of this stuff that we're talking about, you can use the Amazon free Ross link. And so money goes to help the family. And you're not spending any extra money. It's just like a portion of the proceeds. So almost like an affiliate link. But so I got this Life Straw. It's a water bottle with a filter. This is $40 on Amazon. I think the price is going up. They definitely became more difficult to find as time went on, but this is good for a bug out bag. Do you guys have a bug out bag? I don't
Tatiana, those Life Straws. So when I was doing my MBA in 2010 in Ontario, Canada, I took a bunch of classes in environmental sustainability. And it was a time, like, I was feeling really depressed about the environment, like worried, you know, the world was too hot, and I got a little maybe too into it. But those Life Straws, they were talking about them as, you know, people could just basically, you know, drink out of a river or a puddle or anything like that. And I thought, oh my God, we have people dying of diarrhea or, you know, other problems every day, and these things exist. Why? And, you know, now we're actually like 10 years after that. So those Life Straws, everyone should have one. I think I don't have one, but I'm glad to see you got one.
Yeah.
I was actually curious about Tatiana's question. Like, does everybody have it doesn't even have to be a bug out bag, but just kind of a central location for, you know, a little bit of food, some emergency supplies, like a single bag, prepper bag thing. I mean, I've got one, obviously, but.
I used to in the U.S. Ammo, a bunch of thermal stuff. I have like
I love her.
yeah. Hand warmers because my hands get cold, and I'm from a winter climate, so that's really important. Surviving a winter, is something that's like in my blood, and so I definitely had a life straw. All of that stuff, and the 2 books. So I have the North American Plants and Herbs. And the stargazing book, basically like a book about the northern hemisphere stars for direction in case you're ever lost in the woods and you need to, figure out which way is north and et cetera.
No way. I don't think you'd ever be able to do that. I'm sorry. Like, I'm glad that you got that book, but like the minute that you're looking up at the stars guiding us, I mean,
you totally can, right?
Yeah, you're raised by preppers. Absolutely. You learn that stuff. Walk through the woods and figure out what you can eat, what you can't eat. Like, all of this stuff. But that was the thing I was talking about earlier, like the difference between prepping 30 years ago and now. I literally have devices where I can store maps of the entire country down to road signs and solar chargers. And so, rather than needing to navigate by the stars or carry an atlas around, I just sit out in the sunshine, sip on my life straw, wait for my battery to charge, pull up my map of wherever I'm at. And, that's the difference between also like carrying food around. I mean, you can get food in any place that has a door, gas stations, veterinary offices, tractor supply stores. You don't need a grocery store. You get antibiotics. And I like to tell my kids, if you ask them if in an apocalypse where you go, if something really bad happens, well, they know they're not going to Walgreens, they're not going to Walmart. They're finding their nearest like tractor supply or veterinary office because everything you need except for ammo is pretty much there.
Yeah, but what are you going to be like, hey, listen, I don't have a pet, but do you guys have any medication in case?
You don't have to. It's on the shelves. I mean, there's a lot of antibiotics and a lot of medication that, and again, this is not medical advice. Don't drink things for cleaning your fish tank. But like, these are things you should know. It's the difference between, okay, things are really bad and I can't get antibiotics and you live 2 miles from a Tractor Supply or a McGuckin's Hardware or, something like that. Knowing that's prepping. Prepping is knowing that you don't have to go to Walmart or Walgreens to get the stuff you need, and you can avoid not finding toilet paper. Do you know how many people didn't know that Home Depot stocks toilet paper? People are like crowding Walmart, and I'm like walking across the street to Home Depot.
I think we're a bunch of little powder puff puppies here.
Amen.
Everybody's just, all soft. And now everybody wants a big fat check from the government, like a whole bunch of little babies. And
you know what I said in the beginning of this, I said it's the COVID is bringing both left and right together. The left is like demanding that the borders get closed, and the right are demanding free testing and free medical stuff. It's kind of like the left and right wing are kind of like, they're getting all confused. But I did a lot of sailing, and sailors are automatically a little bit preppery and you can't even use. It's actually down to letting go of modern devices too, and learning maps and mapping and reading the stars, using compasses on maps, because if the crap really hits the fan out on the ocean, you can't rely on stuff. You have to rely on really basic things like paper that's sealed in plastic, like a paper map that's sealed in plastic and stuff like that. So, but it's really important, and I'm super impressed that the books were like reading the directions in the stars, and also local plants that you can eat, edible weeds. Super important. All this stuff is super important, but there's also levels of preparing, right? You can get really hardcore with it, like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. And some people like me, I just be like, oh, I can't be bothered. I mean, I've got a daughter now, so that's changed as well. Like, if I was single and the end of the world happens, I'd be like, whatever, I'm out. But I think now that I've got a family, it's very different for me as well. I want to be prepared for as much as possible.
So are you hardcore? Are you a hardcore prepper?
Am I hardcore? No, well, I bought the basics to survive 3 months, basically. And that's you know, what I found though is little things come up. So in the middle of all this, we prepped and we sat and we got this, we found this Airbnb that was like super cheap because no one's traveling. So we could get sunlight and like actually, you know, get some sunlight during all this time because my house doesn't get any sun. But what happened halfway through is that my wife started getting really bad toothache out of nowhere from like a baby tooth that even though she's in her 40s, this baby tooth, this milk tooth never got released. So we had to go to the dentist. It's like, no, like that would be like the worst place for COVID-19. If someone breathing
I was
on you
wondering
down.
about that too, Josh. I've had a toothache and it's like, I think a cavity or something, like it just needs a filling. But yeah, it's been about 2 months and I'm thinking like, there's no way I want someone like, you know, working in my mouth right now.
Oh,
but
yeah, horrible. But it's really important because it's so close to your brain. You just don't want that. You know, you say we had to throw it up. What's more dangerous? Is this COVID more dangerous or this or the other thing? And you know, the data is really showing that younger people, it isn't that dangerous. So if we were to get it, whereas getting something in your brain really is dangerous. So unless you're going to be visiting your grandparents or you've got an underlying condition, I mean, for me, it's not too good because I do have a heart condition, but I think, yeah, you've got to throw that up between yourself and decide and just do it. Just pull the trigger.
yeah,
I mean,
risk reward calculation on everything right now.
Yeah, and you know what? The calculation also was a little bit different because if you were good to go to a general doctor, general practitioner, I think that's a lot scarier because they just they're just sitting there. They don't really use masks. Dentists are fully covered all the time anyway. They only get a certain clientele, and I think they're probably safer than a
Agreed.
than
Yeah.
a GP. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the way I understand this thing, if someone sneezes in an elevator for like the next several hours, if you get on that elevator, you're going to catch it. So you can either stay home and completely quarantine or not. But like doing half measures probably isn't effective. So it's just a waste of time is kind of how I feel about the quarantine thing.
Well, look at New York City. They haven't closed the subways. The subways are completely, they are petri dishes. And I've gotten sick in a subway with a guy coughing on me a couple of years ago and got a horrible flu. I mean, everybody, you're packed in an inch away.
Oh, well.
Apparently packed.
Well,
So
what disgusted
what's the point of closing restaurants and anything else in New York City?
And parks. You can't go in a park in DC right now.
Yeah, it does. There's no logic. That's just
in DC, not Virginia.
absurd. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in New York, I remember right after COVID kind of came out, everybody started getting scared. They were saying that, every 3 days we're going to clean the subways top to bottom. And I'm thinking,
Yeah, sure.
First of all, every 3 days, I think that this should be every day. And also, should it be every day all the time? Like, what are you talking about? People are just going in these subways and they never clean them ever? I mean, what the effing hell is the $3 going toward? If it's just that dirty and filthy, but I mean, that's
You've
just.
been on them, Tatiana. You know.
I have, but I mean, I just didn't realize that I thought that they were just ugly and downtrodden.
$3. When's the last time you rode the subway? There's no way it's $3 still, is it?
Yeah, it's like $3 or $3.50. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have the Apple Pay.
$5, I think, to ride the subway.
Well, no, I don't know. Either way, it's not really giving you a great value because you get free COVID with every ride.
Free COVID.
Well, the funny thing was, as I walked around the block here in this ghost town, I'm in Potsdam, just outside of Berlin, and we're seeing these desolated beer gardens that should be full in springtime and with cobwebs everywhere. The only thing that drives past every so often are buses. Public buses, and I think this is such a typical government response. Shut down everything, keep public buses going. And there's always one, and I remember looking each time there was one person sitting right at the back, and I think, man, it'd be so much cheaper for the government just to say, look, if you need to get somewhere, we're going to cover your taxi or something like that. Where, instead of running these huge beasts around town, putting the bus drivers at risk for really, and the amount of cost is ridiculous for a bus to be driving around for one person.
We've got Emily, Josh's wife, who's a new mom. She's so beautiful and wonderful, and she knows all sorts of interesting things about health. Oh gosh, you're like the Earth Mother over here. Emily actually wanted to talk to us a little bit about supplements. So I'm going to show you what I have, and then maybe you can tell me if what I have is good, and then maybe some other things, because you've already given me a lot of different advice over the years. So I've got magnesium, very important. I have a Super Ultra Nutrition by Bioessence International. There's other ones. It's like kind of like a green thing, you know, it's got some, you know, cholera and some other stuff like that. I also have a Camu powder, which I believe is like high quality vitamin C. I have a zinc spray. I have collagen. Hydrogen, like collagen hydrosylate, whatever, you know, some kind of like high quality overpriced collagen. And then I've got vitamin D. Everybody knows vitamin D is important. I've got vitamin B, and then some other hippie stuff. So a ton of vitamin C and zinc options. So I also heard that selenium was good. So I obviously have a whole slew of things. I'm also doing bone broth, but what can people do to boost the most important prepper of all, our immune system in time of Corona?
Yeah, well, I think I just love coconut oil, and there's a few reasons. So we all know like the basics of, like, if you're a prepper and you have coconut oil, you've got everything covered, from like lip gloss, your hair, your skin, and it's antimicrobial as well. So, and you cook with it, you just do everything with that. But for COVID, they're now finding that some researchers in Singapore are looking into finding a cure for COVID-19 through a derivative of coconut oil, monolaurin. And not many people are talking about this. Like monolaurin, everything that I have now, I've had in the house like for years. So I'm always prepping for my health. And so I'm all excited now that I didn't even have to really go out and buy anything. But yeah, so this is the monolaurin, and it works by melting or dissolving the shell of a virus. So I'm not taking that now. But if I start to feel like I've got a bit of a niggly sore throat or something like that, then that's when I'd pull that out. And I can't believe that more people aren't talking about it. I guess what they're trying to do is, work out if they can create like a pharmaceutical drug and patent it and make shitloads of money from it. So, but I mean, go out and grab some monolaurin. This is lauricidin, which is created by, I don't know, this fella here. That's one that I like and trust, and I've been using it for years. You can use it, people use it for staph, all sorts of things. And it's like an unsung hero that not many people talk about. So yeah, get onto that. I actually stocked up on it before I spoke about it because I didn't want to, everyone to go out and buy it. And we've run out. So we've stocked up. I've let mum know, my brother's onto it. So yeah, I've got that. So yeah, coconut oil, definitely. Vitamin C, but if you want to take it next level with vitamin C, go liposomal, because that's really bioavailable. It makes it just comparatively a lot more of the vitamin C going into your system at once, and you can make it yourself as well. So if you want to be an epic prepper, you can make it yourself really, really simply, and it's really cheap. The ingredients, I think it's like lecithin, and you need a jewelry cleaner. I think that's what, and you prepare it on there. It sounds very strange, but yeah, it's amazing. It's one of those things that I've always been too lazy to do, but if I was a pure prepper, I would have done that. So we've got liposomal made by somebody else in the fridge, and I have good old isolated vitamin C. I just take it from every angle. I've got every form of vitamin C you can possibly have, including the camu that you've got, acerola cherry powder, rosehip powder. They're super bioavailable. And one point with that also, if we get to the point where we don't have access to fruit and vegetables, that's where having those powders like the camu just come in really handy, because you can still be making your smoothies. And one thing that's really important is getting our chlorophyll in. So, and if we run out of greens and vegetables, have your barley powder and your wheatgrass powder. That's a really good way of, staying alkaline and, being able to have your smoothies still. And your frozen berries, we've always got blueberries. That's like having a vitamin pill. in your freezer. That's amazing. If I could have like one fruit that's just amazing for your system, it would be the blueberries. And they're great for taking heavy metals out of your system as well, so that they're really good. Where else can I go with that? I think mood is something that I've noticed that a lot of people, like I'm kind of in bliss at the moment because I'm just in babyland, got a little, almost 7-month-old, and I'm an introvert. So to me, it's just like, oh, cool, Josh is just around a little bit more, and, but, of course, in the back of my mind, I am sort of thinking, what the hell is going on? Like, is there an agenda behind this? And, your mind can start going down a rabbit hole. And I know there are a lot of people that get really, really anxious at this time. And there are definitely things that you can be doing that are besides pharmaceuticals. So, of course, meditation and all of those things. We've got the luxury of listening to positive podcasts and solfeggio tones. If you want to start listening to like nice meditative music and healing frequencies, I highly recommend. If I'm feeling really stressed out, I'll go onto YouTube and look up solfeggio tone healing music. And I don't like to watch drama and murder shows on Netflix and stuff like that. They're simple basics, but there are some supplements that you can take that really help. One that I love is, and I just got this from iHerb, ashwagandha, and it just helps me to feel a really gentle calmness. It's hard to explain, but it's a really beautiful feeling. I really, really love ashwagandha. And I take that every day, especially having a baby. Like I need that. Ashwagandha, no, I think it's a root.
Some hippie stuff. I have that.
Have you?
Yeah, I got the ashwagandha. Yeah. I don't know what it does, but it's supposed to be anti-stress. Can you just take that forever? I mean, are any of these supplements something that you should take a break from? Shouldn't your body be able to just get what you need from regular food anyway? I mean, you're taking these even not in times of famine. And I think that, we're still pretty far from the famine.
Yeah, well, I think it's always good to cycle your vitamins. I think it's good to take a little bit of a break so that our body doesn't get complacent and our organs and our system stops sort of creating its own vitamins as well. It's always good to sort of shock your system a bit, like, same reason that I like to jump in the lake when it's freezing cold, just to, make our bodies do a bit of work and not get lazy and dull. I think, it's probably good to use your ashwagandha for particularly stressful times, but having a baby like every day, I'm kind of exhausted and on edge. So that's why I've been taking this as soon as I had TILs, I started taking this, and I've just found it such a massive help. If you want to take it next level though, and this is something that I recommend if somebody's taking antidepressants or any other medications, definitely check that it's not going to, work in a negative way with it. But it's, where is it? I can't see it in front of me. Oh, here it is. This is from Australia, but it's Thompson's Mood Manager, but it's got SAME in it. And this is like an emergency sort of one. It's fine. It's very gentle, but it just sort of brightens your mood, helps you to, if you're just really feeling down in the doldrums and you've got a negative pattern going on, it just really helps you to get out of that loop. So this is just a good one to have in the house for, situations like this, if you just need that extra little boost. It's definitely not something that I'd recommend taking every single day, but it's just nice to know it's there in case you need it. Definitely, you don't get the jitters or anything with it. You just sort of feel like, oh, shit, that's right. An hour ago I was in a really shitty mood and now I feel pretty fine. So that's a really, really nice thing to have around. And your B12, great for your mood, great for getting oxygen into your system as well. So, I could just rave on forever. I'll take a breath.
Well, no, we do have a lot of people in here, but I think that we've got a lot of good options. Here's the thing that I'm wondering, right? Yeah. If you're getting all these things and you can't go out and you're getting it in the mail, are we all getting poisoned from our Amazon delivery? I heard no, because the disease only lives for 24 hours on a surface. So I think we're all right.
Well, I'm always a little bit sus with it. They're really good. The Amazon guys, I was actually in a Facebook group and a woman said, my husband is an Amazon driver. And she said, they're washing their hands, they're using antibacterial spray all the time. And now they don't pass it to you, they'll just sort of leave it like 2 meters away from your door. And we'll grab it, and Josh has made a preparation out of, 3% peroxide and water.
Yeah.
Sprays it on the box, and then we'll just leave it outside. But I'm too impatient. I just go for it and make sure that I spray my hands. Afterwards with colloidal silver, that was like the last thing that I mentioned, but yeah, colloidal silver, you can't go wrong, because use that for disinfecting everything, wounds, whatever. Spray it on your throat.
Yeah, I got a nebulizer too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Josh was putting the colloidal silver into the nebulizer, sucking it back into the lungs. Some people don't think that works. Some people do. So
a lot of people are into nebulizers. I'm not so sure. Oh, wait. Kenny says the amount of time the virus can survive depends on the material. 3 to 4 hours on fabrics or porous paper, with 7+ days on non-porous plastics and metal. Well, then that's fine, because I'm just holding a big cardboard box, so I'm safe.
They said it lives up to 9 days on surfaces, on some surfaces, kind of like Kenny was saying. And so I think, they were making a big deal, actually. What was it, like about 2 weeks ago or something, that one of the people from one of the Apple stores had the virus. And they were saying like a bunch of iPhones or something could be infected. So, I mean, they are taking huge precautions, and people are fearful that it is living on surfaces. So if it is being transferred that way, I would say somebody through one of these huge, delivery companies has had it at some point, and we're all somewhat going to get it. Like a lot of people in the crypto industry, since I was, worked as a nurse for 12 years, and have a chemistry background, they've kind of asked my advice and direction, like what should I be doing? And because of health reasons of my own, like I've been under quarantine myself for the last 3 years, just because I was fighting health issues. And I think, people need to just boost their immune systems as much as possible. Like, why aren't we eating healthy in the first place? Why aren't
not that delicious? That's why.
It is, though.
Chick-fil-A is scrumptious. Let's face it, guys. I'm sorry. I stopped yesterday. I was gonna make a green shake, and then I saw Chick-fil-A, and I said, "Well, it's just a little drive-through," and then it happened. I'm just saying, it's hard to eat healthy when you're depressed. I've been eating pretty healthy, but I'm saying, people are stress eating right now. Nobody wants to eat this stuff. I mean, they have to. Suck it up, Buttercup, right? Because, that's what got us in this place in the first place, right? All that unhealthy living. But now is not the best time for people to start shifting over to good habits. I mean, maybe
Kenny
it is.
The point Kenny just said, because eating healthy has become really hard or expensive for some people, and that's absolutely true. So I definitely agree.
Hey, we got mad Bitcoins up in this crib. What up, Thomas?
So this is what happens if we all go outside. As you can see, all these balls bouncing off each other, everyone is getting sick and infected. In China, they did a test. They kept people in quarantine, but after a little while, they opened up the quarantine and they let people back out. And this is what happened when they let people back out. So you can see, even if you're just out for a drive, even if you're just going to the beach, even if you're just having fun, you could be spreading the virus to dozens and maybe even hundreds of other people.
Right, but I don't think the virus is going to kill us.
Compared to other viruses, well, it might not kill you.
No, I don't think it's going to kill a lot of people. I think it's overstated.
Well, it's going to kill a lot of older people. And more importantly, we don't know, because this is a brand new virus. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. We had the flu for thousands of years. We had the flu. But as you can see,
I don't know. Why do you think this is it's never been seen before? What is so special about this?
There's been coronaviruses in existence and being treated for over 20 years. This is a mass, evolution of that. We're not denying that. But, we have been, because like I said, Plaquenil is already being used to treat it. And it's because it is
treatments are great, but treatments aren't vaccines.
Right.
Treatments are for people that already have the disease.
We got ourselves a pro-vaxxer, ladies and gentlemen. Thomas coming in with the pro-vax position.
Well, if you want to talk about vaccines, what you really want to talk about is the smallpox vaccine, the first vaccine developed. It saved hundreds of thousands of lives. It's an incredible vaccine, and what it is it's a weaker version of the disease. So yes, it's very difficult to get the combination correct, and that's why it's going to take a year to a year and a half to develop this vaccine, which is the only way that we're all going outside again. So get ready to stay inside, get ready to quarantine, or think about going to a movie theater, maybe getting sick and dying. Think about eating Chick-fil-A, maybe getting sick and dying. If you're not clean, you're not going out. Welcome to the future.
Well, and I think that's wise, but I think that smallpox is a poor example, though, in this, because it killed actually 30%? And the coronavirus is killing, 0.5 to 2% of people. And I'm not arguing with you, I'm not saying go outside, I'm not doing anything. I'm just bringing, the medical facts to the table.
We don't know the medical facts. We don't have all the numbers yet. All the numbers we have, everyone doubts. So if you doubt the Chinese numbers, if you doubt the Japanese numbers, because they had the Olympics coming to town, then you have to say, wait till it's over. The only reasonable thing to say is let's wait 6 months to a year after this is over. Then we'll look back, we'll put it in a box, we'll say, wow, we overreacted. Or we'll say, I wish we had some more ventilators.
We've got people raging out in the chat, too. There's even more people. Jeremy's saying, your body can heal itself. Michael Horowitz, I'm with Thomas.
If I can jump in real quick, this is Kenny from Gulchcast here.
Hey, Kenny.
I haven't had the chance to really talk on here. It's pretty cool. But one of the problems with this particular virus is right now there's no herd immunity, as far as we know. They're just now coming out with the antibody tests where they can test who has and who has not been exposed. And keep in mind, there's also different types of antibodies. There's short-term and long-term antibodies. If people start testing positive for the antibodies, but they all turn out to be short-term antibodies, then this may end up being an illness similar to the flu, where we go through this every single year from now on. This is just the way it is. If they're long-term antibodies, which is what happened, for example, during the Spanish flu epidemic, then that's a different story. Then we go through this once, and hopefully it's a long time before we have to deal with something like this again. And because there's not any retroviral treatments quite yet, we don't know what the upper limit of the mortality rate is. And that's the same case, used to be with the flu. Until we actually had flu vaccines that were effective, the mortality rates for the flu were astronomical. And not only does the flu vaccine help, but also the people who don't get it benefit from people getting vaccinated and having that herd immunity. And just as a kind of a personal anecdote, my father had a series of heart attacks back in October, nearly died. It nearly ended him. He had 3 heart attacks over the course of a weekend, had to have an emergency quadruple bypass. He was in the hospital for 14 weeks. He was in 6 weeks in the ICU and then another 8 weeks being weaned off the ventilator. Even now, he's on supplemental oxygen. If he gets this, it could have catastrophic effects for him. It could kill him. Now, just to kind of go back to what we were talking about hoarding, for example, we've had people who had the rushes on toilet paper and things like that, which is, we joke about that. But you also think about things like, cleaning supplies or basic stuff like distilled water. Like my dad didn't have to have distilled water before he came off a ventilator and had to be on a BiPAP, when he sleeps at night. So they have to keep a supply of distilled water. Well, they were trying to go out to the stores, couldn't find it. When people buy all this stuff up, then people who are most vulnerable, who really need it, because a lot of people who are buying this stuff really don't need it, they just wanted to have it for their own kind of mental security. The people who really need it have to keep going out or sending someone out to try to find it. And every time they go out, it increases the probability of them picking up the virus, either getting sick themselves or bringing it home to that vulnerable person.
And that's right. People just aren't taking this seriously. I know my parents just keep going out. They had the carpets cleaned. They had to go to the store. They had to go buy gas. You don't have to do those things. You don't have to get your hair done. Just stay home. Don't go out.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the blabathon, but we've got some other guests coming into the Prepperpalooza. New voices to help us prep. Faith in My Money, DJ J Scrilla. This is the second track that you have, right? Because you just did another one that you released with Uncle John.
Yeah, with Uncle John. It's Dark Market is out as well, and I just did a yeah, I don't know, 10-song album about Bitcoin.
What's the name of this song?
Money Printer Go Brrr.
Oh, that's right.
The song is out now. If you pre-order the album, it comes out April 14th. You can get it. It's a 10-song album about Bitcoin, and I think it's kind of funky here. Let's see.
All right, here it is. I hope it comes through okay.
Launched on April Fool's Day. Uh-oh.
All right, here we are.
Not in generations has Wall Street absorbed the number of body blows it took today.
The world has gone mad and the system is broken.
The American financial system is rocked to its foundation as top Wall Street institutions topple under a mountain of debt.
Bailed out by the taxpayers.
It's pretty clear they cannot be trusted.
He said, your problem is that you're trying to understand this as an economic story. Once you look at it as a crime story, you'll get it.
The Fed is losing control once again. In just a couple of days, the U.S. Federal Reserve has pumped out $125 billion and handed that money over to commercial banks once again.
Buy low and sell high.
But my faith and my money help me rise above. But my faith and my money help me rise above. But my faith and my money help me rise above. But my faith and my money help me rise above.
You can't just keep being a tool of the globalist financial elite.
But my faith and my money help me rise above.
You are asking for the biggest bailout in the history of this country.
Rise above.
It led to an age of populism, a deep distrust of Wall Street, and a near meltdown of the global economy.
The financial world is rocked by the biggest bankruptcy in U.S. history.
Seems every time you think it's as bad as it can possibly get, another disaster is just waiting around the corner.
Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks.
Money markets will dry up around the world by the end of the week. ATMs will stop spitting bills. Federal deposit insurance will collapse. Banks will close. Mobs panic. It's going to be the end of the world, Bill.
All right. So, Scrilla, do you think that hip hop knows about the banking system?
Not everybody, obviously, but not everybody in rock and roll knows about the banking system. It's just the same.
I think that hip hop people know more about the banking system than rock and roll people do.
I think they know more about use cases for Bitcoin than most people.
That's messed up, man.
No, I mean, a lot of songs are about regulated goods.
Right? What's the point of all this technology without a little love in our lives? Our hosts, Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz, have come together to bring you Proof of Love. Go to proofoflovecast.com. Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. We gotta think and reflect and use lots of intellect with our hearts when we work together. I know that it can be so hard out there, looking all around and saying that life ain't fair. So that is why we will fight and stay up late at night, listening to the Tatiana Show.